Welcome into Pressbox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com. And with me tonight, and we're going to talk to him in just a moment, once I get a sponsor read out of the way, is Terry Hasseltine, the Executive Director of Maryland Sports. How are you, Terry?
I'm doing outstanding. Thanks for having me, Stan.
All right. Pleasure. Want to really recap this cycling classic, the second of its kind. Just need to mention here at the outset that we are brought to you each and every time by the Costas Inn, and also right now by Superbook Sports. This is the book, the Superbook or sports book that is out at Camden Yards, and they are from Vegas. Right now, they're making a great offer. If you sign up and use the promo code, StanCharles23, and I'll explain that a little bit later on in the program. But happy to be joined by Terry Hasseltine. And Terry, I start off with an oddball question because I'm really here to sort of recap and congratulate you on what was, by all intents and purposes that I see, just an incredible second rendering of the Maryland Cycling Classic. But I do have to ask you, and everybody I've talked to, we read who won, gentleman named Matthias Komos of a Danish biker, and he's with the Lidl Trek group.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, do people really, in your circle, do people really care who won the race?
When it comes down to both teams and individuals, Stan, they're earning points towards their UCI rankings. So athletes do care about where they finish in the ranking order because it raises their global profile as a rider. And then it also makes them more viable to be recruited by other teams. So the more victories and the more points that a rider gets throughout the season, more viable he or she is to be recruited by the top teams, the World Tour teams. This year we had 5 World Tour teams in our race, and those 5 World Tour teams are the top echelons of cycling, out there. And these athletes are always riding to be in the elite groups of riders. So every point they earn and every top 10 finish they get, they're earning credits towards world point scale, as well as earning, prestige and honor of, being highly recruited by teams like Lidl Trek, teams like EF Echelon, and teams of EF Education and Echelon and the like, because those teams, we had teams here in Maryland racing this weekend, but like Lidl Trek, they had a team over in Europe in the Tour of Britain. And they have, athletes in other parts. They put their best team on the road, the Maryland Cycling Classic, that could contend on the hilly roads of Baltimore County, and then the sprint finish here in the city. So these teams, they have anywhere from 10 to 30 riders that make up a global team because they're riding in multiple events simultaneously as a group. So every point counts.
All right, interesting. I want to ask you a question. I happened to look at the results on the website today, the MarylandCyclingClassic.com, and emboldened at the beginning is America's top pro cycling race.
Mm-hmm.
Is it already in only its second year? Is this the preeminent cycling event in the United States?
Without a doubt. I mean, it's the only one in the United States. And
really?
Part of that is that over the course of time, the U.S. has kind of lost its emphasis on, road racing, in its totality. You had the Amgen Tour of California, you had the Tour of Georgia back in the day. You've had all these road races that have come and gone over the course of time. Up in Quebec and Montreal, they have a long-standing World Tour event that follows our event. And when we looked at bringing pro cycling back to the States, back to Maryland, we wanted to make sure that we lined ourselves up where we could bring European riders over here, but they gave them a sense of an incentive that there's another race, not in the United States, but up in Canada, that would give them the reason for coming over the pond, per se, and coming into the States and racing. Our goal and our vision is to become the preeminent race in North America, regardless of who potentially comes out into the market and starts a new race somewhere in the US. We want to be that go-to race that every racer across the globe wants to come to. And right now, we've created a standard of excellence in our first 2 years that European riders, Asian riders, African riders, South American riders, and American riders, they all see Maryland as a leader in the road cycling space. Therefore, we're earning instant credibility that when we try to change some things up and add some differential factors to it or grow and add more days of racing, we have the support of the cycling community because we took the chance coming out of COVID to launch this race and with great fanfare. Last year, we had, tens of thousands of people lining the streets of, Baltimore City and Baltimore. Again, year two, we had an equivalent amount of people lining the streets of Baltimore City and Baltimore. And this year, if you notice during the telecast, we brought a helicopter into the sky. And that's another thing that adds a level of excellence to a race. When you can get the aerial views, you can see the packs and the pelotons. You can see the beautiful terrain in which these riders are riding on. These riders love Baltimore County and Baltimore City. It's some of the best roads and some of the best scenery they ride in the world. And that's a testament to our state, our county, and our city collaborating to make sure that we deliver a world-class event to the world. And we did that. We're in 80 plus countries. We're on GCN, we were Tour Tracker Digital Focus, and MPT did a tremendous job doing the broadcast for 5+ hours. I mean, kudos to our partners at MPT. They were awesome. And that helicopter in the sky just differentiated the race from last year to this year. And just that added level of excellence. That's the type of thing you see at the Tour de France. That's the level of content we want to deliver for Maryland.
Was that your vision for, I know we had the 2 years of COVID that you had to postpone this. It started last year, but I'm going back probably 5, 6, 7 years when you first had the vision of this. Has it checked every box that you could have imagined?
No. And the reason for that answer, no, is that we knew that we had to establish a foundation, especially when we got sidetracked with COVID for 2 years.
Yeah.
Our goal is to make sure there's multiple days of racing and there's multiple genders of racing. And we want to make sure that the impact and the things that we give back to the community, as you saw throughout the weekend, we had Bike Jam, we had bikes in schools, we had a charity ride, we had the intro to the athletes, which is open to the general public. And then the race itself, with the exception of where, your top sponsors and the like, is open to the public. We wanted to make sure that this event is accessible. We wanted to make sure this event is viable to the residents of Maryland to have access to a world-class experience and not have to pay a dime, in which to see it. And we are starting to achieve those goals. But our vision is that this is going to be multiple day racing opportunity at the World Tour level. So we're one step below the World Tour right now. We want to elevate to a World Tour event in the future, but we have to take the right steps in the right process. We're at the mercy of the UCI and the USA cycling calendars of event. We want to add things to the calendar. We want to add things like a women's race. However, we have to do it within the system in which is provided to us to ensure that we do it right. And we're working on all those strategies. We got great leadership and John Kelly as our chairman, with Steve Brunner at KOM Sports Marketing and Chris Aaronholt and his team at Medalist Sports. We have the right team assembled to take on the challenges that we'll face as we go through the process of working with the UCI and USA Cycling, because we have a grand vision that, we want to give these riders not only a great day of, racing like you saw on Sunday, but we want to do some events that lead up to that great day of racing, everything from criteriums to time trials and those type of things, and really expand the celebration of cycling within the sport. But we also want to create legacy and, other components that give it a 365-day-a-year touch on the cycling community. So when the big mega race comes, we've engaged and we enthralled and we enthusiastically got people engaged so that they can touch this. So from young to old, to men to women, we want to make sure that we're creating a cross spectrum of cycling opportunities here in the state of Maryland. And the Maryland Cycling Classic Weekend is just the foundation of what we hope will be a long-term goal and vision. This is going to be the tentpole event for the fall for Maryland, like the Preakness is in the spring. We're excited about this opportunity, and we think in year two, we've done a lot of really great things, but we know we have a lot of lessons to learn and a lot of things to add to the proverbial pie to make this thing just brilliant.
Terry, I know there's a lot of people that make up the team that you've created, but talk a little bit about how important it was to find a John Kelly to be really the sort of chairman of this thing because of his love for cycling, his passion for it. How important is he to this success?
I can tell you, Stan, we wouldn't be where we are today without the support of John Kelly. John Kelly not only is an enthusiast for cycling, but he understands the fundamental growth strategies of getting young people involved in cycling at an early age so they can have a chance to be on a bike, be in a position to be successful using the bike as its vehicle of competition. He's a great guy who has championed so many things that are part of this process. I'm very fortunate that I can call him a friend. I'm very fortunate that I can call him the chairman of the Maryland Cycling Classic. He's opened a lot of doors in the corporate community to bring people to the table to help us, financially. He's brought a lot of friends to the table to help us also with some of that cycling expertise, and he just wears that on his sleeve. And, we are very fortunate that we have a John Kelly in the state of Maryland who can help us champion this process forward. And I look forward to working with him for many, many years in the future, if he's willing to work with me for many, many years in the future.
From our conversation a few weeks ago, I have a feeling you don't have to worry about that. But I did want to hear you say what I kind of intuited how important he was to this whole thing. The course, the 121-mile course, who really designed that course? Was it one person or was it a team? And how did they know kind of how to create the context of this kind of course that brought in so many parts and topography that made up a really fascinating course, Terry?
Yeah, I mean, it was a team effort. I mean, everything from some members of John's cycling team and people he has on, like Mike Batley and John himself, people who ride our roads on a regular basis, who understand the heartaches and the pains that our roads can create. And then you bring in a team like Medalist Sports along with, Chris Aaronhall and Will Smith and Kevin Livingston, who's a former, professional cyclist himself. And they started analyzing the various topography that made up Baltimore County, as well as how do we bring it into the city. And trust me, we looked at some variations throughout this entire process that goes from east to west to north to south, and vice versa. And what really came down to is we needed to find a race that we knew would challenge, the elite athletes, but also knew that it could give the scenery and the breathtaking views that would really engage the television audience as these riders traverse the roads of the county and then into the city. And I got to tell you, the team did a tremendous job. I mean, we lost sleep over it because we're like, what if we go a little left here and, bring it in here? And then we have to obviously take into consideration what else is going on in the community. You had the state fair going on up in Baltimore County and Timonium. So we know we have to try to veer left or right of that. We knew first year we had the O's in town. So we knew we had to be east of 83 to ensure that, we didn't impact the egress and regress of game day. And so we had some variables thrown at us that were unexpected. But when it came down, it's a consortium of people who came together and we started throwing, things together. And then the police drove the streets in concert with, our partners, and they all came to a consensus that the route we gave would be challenging enough for the UCI to identify it as a Pro Series event. And then two, gave us a way to really align it, to really sell it and establish it as a route that would meet the highest standards of excellence.
I got out to Kelly Way for the start of the race. Gary Stein and I were out there. We actually didn't do it right. We thought that John Kelly meant that it was starting at 10 o'clock. So we got out there about 9 and stayed till about 10:30. But I did watch a good bit of the race on television.
Yeah.
What would happen if you caught bad weather on the day of the race? Is there a prescription for that problem?
Yeah, if it's just rain, go on as is.
What if it's a hurricane?
But if it's a hurricane and there's going to be, potential flooding on the roads and those things, that's why you have all the officials that we bring in through the UCI as well as through USA Cycling, is we want to put on the safest race possible for the riders. We don't want to put them in any situation that would be dangerous. So if it's a light rain per se, and it's going to be, they ride. They ride just like you would play.
And they're used to doing that in Europe too.
Yeah, they do it all the time. But if it's going to be rains that are going to impede sight lines and visibility at a very dangerous level, or are going to put standing water on the roads that are going to make it really tricky and bring debris onto the road,
right?
Then they would either, if it's just a passing strong storm, you would probably clear and then try to start later. or you would probably postpone to the next day if the weather is going to cooperate. The challenging part with that, though, is you have all those resources in place for that particular day.
Yeah, it's
Police,
hard to.
fire, rescue, first responders, all that's volunteers. And the nice part is why we're on, Labor Day on Sunday is exactly for that reason. If we had to shift left, a day earlier, a day later, going a day early is not an option because the teams are still, some of them are still arriving that Saturday morning. But if you have to go a day later, at least you have flexibility because it's a holiday weekend. If that were a work day, oh my God.
It'd be very difficult.
Yeah.
Impossible.
And then, like I said, yeah. But all those things are taken into consideration. There's variables in place. The UCI and USA Cycling, have contingency plans for all those reasons. And that's why you go out and hire the best in the business. That's why we hire KOM and Medalist Sports, because they're the best in the business. They know how to navigate those challenges should they be faced with them. I'm not a cyclist, and I'm the first one to tell you I'm not a cyclist. However, I think it's cool as heck, and watching what I saw on Sunday, it's cool, and it brings people together to have a really good time and experience a professional sporting event up close and personal. And it doesn't cost you $1 bazillion to sit in the stadium to do it. So, from that champion of the sport, from that I give my cap off to all of the people who help make it happen. There's just too many people. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that make this thing work, and I'm just blessed that Baltimore City, County, and the state raised their hand and said, "Let's do this."
There's hundreds of people, and I know you don't have time to mention them. Are there 3 to 5 sponsors that you'd say? I know United Healthcare, right, is one of them, but are there 3 or 5 that really have stepped up as corporate partners that gave it the initial traction that then led to other sponsors?
Oh, first of all, United Healthcare. I mean, obviously they've been with us from the get-go. They're the reason we got through COVID. I mean, they allowed us to, take that first year sponsorship money and allow us to hold on to it so that we could continue the process of planning. They've been great. David Wickman, who's the former CEO of United Healthcare, now with Foundation and Cornerstone, he stepped up huge. RX Benefits. These are just people who just have a passion for the sport, who brought their companies to the table. I mean, Athlo's a local tech provider on the technical gear, not your biggest, hugest sponsor, but have been with us since day one, providing the technical gear, providing the wear that you're seeing on our staff, the wear that you're seeing on some of the first responders out there in the market. And it is litany. And Visit Baltimore. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Visit Baltimore and experience, Baltimore County. Those 2 tourism bureaus saw the value of the cycling classic as a way to tell the story to the world through using cycling as that platform. And because of them, the county and the city being just instrumental partners, without them raising their hand and saying, "Terry, you're not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. This is a great idea. This is a great thing to showcase what Baltimore and the Baltimore region are about." Johnny O to Mayor Scott to Al and to Abby, in the county. Hats off. They were just great partners. And because of them, sponsors wanted to jump into the fray.
The Governor Moore, he kind of inherited this.
Yeah.
Is he a cheerleader now for this event?
Oh, he's a huge cheerleader for the work that we're doing. I'm very fortunate. I've been blessed now. I've had great chairman. Tom was great to me. Craig Thompson, our new chairman of the MSA, he's a champion of Maryland sports, the champion of the work that we're doing, the vision of the things that we're trying to get accomplished. So between the governor's office and Governor Moore, and then having Craig Thompson as our chair. But the nice part is, Dan, and we've talked about this before, being an entity that's economic driver for a state like we are, and if sports is our vehicle and sport tourism is our platform, there's no political strife there. There is, this is good for the state. It's good for the city. It's good for the county. Carry on, charge on, keep us informed, keep us engaged. And I've just been blessed to, have those folks, at the table. And, Governor Moore and his team has been outstanding. The transition between the 2 chairs has been, wonderful. I mean, everybody has attributes that you miss, and, you wish you could, have a little bit of each. But at the end of the day, I'm just a very fortunate person to be in the role that I'm in. I've had great people surrounding me throughout this 15 plus years I've been here. And this event has been blessed because people see the vision of it.
Yeah. Well, I feel good because I kind of saw the vision when you got here and I saw what a vacuum there was for having a person like you. And you've been just remarkable, Terry.
Well, thank you.
Remarkable. You got a couple of minutes I mean, a minute
Yeah.
and a half to wait for me and a few
Yeah.
more questions.
Oh,
Just got to
yeah.
get a couple words in about the Costas Inn and Superbook. Superbook is from Vegas and now they're here in Maryland, and legalized sports betting is available to you. First football season with it fully in play, but Superbook has a great deal for you. If you aren't signed up yet, go to superbook.com, or I Google in Superbook Sports and it comes right up as the first thing on Google. Click on Maryland, you log in, and then you actually start an account. If you use the promo code Stan Charles 23, you get that first bet back bonus of 250 up to $250. Check them out, sportsbook.com. I think you'll like them. Use the promo code and win some money this football season and the rest of baseball season at superbook.com using the promo code Stan Charles 23. Back with Terry Hasseltine. And Terry, just wanted to ask you, you turned from this event and now in about 5 weeks time, you've got the 5-star event coming up in northern Baltimore County, or actually not Baltimore County, North Harford County,
In
right?
Cecil County.
Cecil County. How easy is it for you now to turn your head? I'll bet you your year flies by these different events that you've got coming. You've always got something in the works.
Yeah, in all fairness, Stan, I'm fortunate that I've been able to assemble a great team. From the cycling classic, Graham on my staff, to Bob Sicard on the Sport Entertainment Corp staff, and Marissa Melzer, who is our director of operations, and then Jake Klein and a bunch of people, and then we have a bunch of contractors, and then assembled a great team. So to be able to shift from cycling now over to the 5-star, the awesome part is now we're going into our third year of the 5-star. Jeff Newman has been doing, yeoman's work on, keeping the engine chugging, just keeping it chugging, making sure that there's 365 days of constant activity going on to get to this magic day and the magic days in October. Marissa shifts from being a support mechanism on cycling over to her full passionate job of working on the 5-star. And then our team just shifts over to an operational mechanism of becoming 5-star support staff. And, the team has done a tremendous job. Like I said, it goes back to the people you bring in. And we have tremendous contractors who are helping us with a lot of the technical aspects, like Joni Morris and Jake Cohn and Connie Sawyer, and the list goes on and on and on. But we have a great team in the Sport Corp, followed by a great team of contractors that we bring on for both events that have expertise in those sports. So shifting for me is going from whether am I talking about a biker or am I turning myself on to talking about a horse and a rider. And those are the type of things that comes with the territory. I love I'm very passionate about what I do. And I'm very passionate that, took two obscure type of events to bring a profile onto the state of Maryland through equestrian sports and now cycling. And then we do all the things, obviously, with your traditional sports like soccer, lacrosse, football, basketball, those type of things too. But taking these two, I would call them oddities in the, general sports space, and anchoring them with solid positioning in the state of Maryland, and then allowing all your traditional sports to really surround it, just raises the tide that we're engaging a bigger subset of the sports community than just what a lot of the people in the general public, they think baseball, football, and that. Well, this gives us a different leverage in our resume and our portfolio to show a diversity of our background and our ability to deliver events of all scales and scopes, at a world-class level.
When we used to talk 10, 12 years ago, you used to always use, and you still use the phrase, it's about putting butts in beds and,
it's heads in beds, food in belly, gas in cars, credit card and cash in counters, and butts in seats.
That's what it's about. You got that down better than me. That mantra. Do these events, are you satisfied with the number of people they're bringing in that aren't just sleeping in Baltimore every night? or Maryland. Are they bringing in tourism dollars?
Oh yeah, both the cycling event and the 5 Star are raising the economic portfolio, for Maryland this year with the Great Wolf Lodge opening around the 5 Star, giving us a better draw into the Maryland market. As you know, Fair Hill's up there on the Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland. It's in Maryland, but it's right up there on those borders.
Yep.
So, you see a lot of transition to more of a regional, tri-state kind of event. But with the opening of the Great Wolf Lodge, now we have a natural draw to bring people down the 95 quarter into the state of Maryland more. So we're starting to see the natural shift of what was a tri-state lodging component going to probably migrate down and still be tri-state, but it'll be a little heavier on the Maryland side. And then next year it'll be a little heavier and a little heavier. And then you'll see that, that's, like I said, well, this is a 3 to 5 year growth plan on the 5 Star. And here we are, year 3. A new toy came into the system, helps us change the shift of how we're going to house people and the like. So yes, does it raise the tide of tourism dollars in the state of Maryland? Without a doubt. And am I ever satisfied? No, because at the end of the day, we know that we can do more. We know we can add more, and we know we can bring more people to the table. Our goal with the 5 Star is elevate, is putting as many people on that grounds as possible. We want to be the Burley, the Badminton, in the Kentucky events. We want to have 80,000+ out there, over the 3 days, or even in excess of 100. Like Burley just had 100, I think it's 80-something thousand people. That's obviously an island nation, has a little bit more history behind their event. It's going to take us a while to get there, Stan, but fundamentally, Jeff and team on the 5 Star are laying the right foundation to get us up there. Do I ever think we'll become the Burley? No, I mean, that's a jump that's really far. But do I think that we can put, tens of thousands, close to 100,000 people out there over a weekend? Heck yeah, without a doubt. And same thing with cycling. I just think that thing's going to just continue to grow and, bring more and more people in each and every year.
Terry, I know how difficult on multiple levels the pandemic was for everyone. So of course, I'm not saying, boy, it was a good thing. But did in retrospect, when you analyze the success of these events that you started, in some weird way, did the extra time that those problems allowed you to put them on the first year at a higher level than you think you might have reached otherwise?
I think that's a great observation, Stan. I think that's exactly what it did. It allowed us to slow down and really assess the environment greater than being in the trenches right from the word go. It allowed us to analyze some things. I think an interesting story, Dan. So we survived COVID. We got the event started. Guess what happened this year, Stan? Guess who didn't see the race live? I was sidelined with COVID. So, it obviously helped me build the team, create some independence within my team. So they were ready to be champions when they were called. I tapped Graham. Graham did a tremendous job over the weekend at cycling, Stan. I mean, I'm so proud of that guy, but he's the next man up, and he did his job, and he did it at a very high level. And so it's just interesting. Our new reality is that you never know when someone's going to have to tap out because COVID hits them. I was with this year at cycling class, so I was with you, Stan. I watched it on MPT, and I got a chance to see the race in a way I wouldn't have otherwise saw it firsthand. So that's the kind of thing that we were able to create, is the people understanding their jobs, their responsibilities, and what their roles are in order to carry all this out. Therefore, like I said, man goes down, man or woman steps up. So
yeah. Hey, circling back to the bike race, one last question. How did all the other ancillary events, the visits to schools, the kickoff that night, you have that nighttime event, how did all those come off? And were you satisfied that you got the response that you wanted from them?
I was thoroughly impressed, over the top with our ancillary events. When it came to the welcoming reception, where we did a tribute to African-American riders in American cycling, and we honored, Major Taylor and 3 other, significant riders, Nelson Dale, Rashawn Bahati, and I just went blank. I can see him. They'll come to me. Right. But we did this YouTube. But the attendance and the people who showed up, Stan, was phenomenal. I mean, I still am getting calls today saying, "Hey, Terry, kudos for that event on Thursday night. Way to kick off a great week." Our chairman was through the moon happy. You know, Mark with GBC and Al with Visit Baltimore, the mayor, everybody were just over the moon with how that came up. And then having that day of kids, you know, getting kids in, you know, schools, some bikes, getting some visiting from the athletes that were in town to ride in this event. And then, you know, you go, you know, one step further, and then we did bike jam over in Patterson Park. We had great attendance, kids out there learning how to ride. Great story. So last year we had a ride. The mom came out and said, "Hey, I've been trying to keep my kid for like 6 months how to ride a bike, et cetera, et cetera. I can't do it. You know, I think it was Nelsondale stepped up, and within 6 minutes, kids riding a bike around the park. So the way we touch these kids and the person that's teaching them how to do some of the little things on a bike, it was absolutely spectacular. And the Bridge to Hope raised $150,000 for the charity, and then the night of the team introductions, great turnout over at Harbor Point. You know, BD Group did a tremendous job making that land available to us, and then our partners at Select Events set it up and made it look really special. And the athletes just loved how many people were out there cheering them on and congratulating them for their chance to race in the big race on Sunday. So over the moon happy with how everything turned out. But we also learned some lessons that how we can tweak and modify and make things even better.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time, Terry, because I like to recap them as instantly as we possibly can, and to let the folks out there know what they missed, some of them, and know what they can be a part of next year with the cycling event next year. And again, next October, probably the Maryland 5-star, this year's 5-star is in October. All right.
Well, this year, the 5-star stand come out. We got corgi racing, we got pony racing. We got obviously all the competition make up the 3 and the 5-star, as well as young event horse. It's 3.5+ days of just packed equestrian related activities and other furry friends.
All right. Always a pleasure, Terry.
Yes,
you can feel free to leave, but I got to do another sponsor read for my friends at the Costas Inn. You're welcome to leave. And thanks again. And I'll talk to you soon, Terry. You're a good friend.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
All right. Wanted to talk about the Costas Inn real quick before we get off the air. The Costas Inn, located at 4100 North Point Boulevard. That's right, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They've been there for over 50 years, and they're not going anywhere. They do a fantastic job. Varied menu, but if seafood is your thing, and especially crabs, and you want to get crabs before the summer season is over, and they serve them all year long. But if you want to do it, you got to have a plan. 410-477-1975 is the number. You can order your crabs. You can pick out the size, the price point you want to be at, and they'll have them all there ready for you and your party, whether you want to eat them in or eat them out. That's the Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard, a staple, a Maryland tradition like no other. All right, that's going to do it for tonight. I'll be back Monday night with Ross Grimsley, actually Monday at 4:00 with Ross Grimsley and Luke Jackson. Have a good day, and I'll be on with Glenn Clark tomorrow morning, Friday morning. Bye.